One woman's battle against obesity leads to a deadly addiction.
You very quickly can get intoxicated as well as dehydrated and malnourished.
Families fed up over a never-ending construction project.
The beeping, you hear the beeping? Yeah, that's like bright and early 7 a.m.
And Georgia educators looking to help students read find answers in an unexpected place. When systems fail, people pay the price. We trace the damage, expose the truth, and fight to fix it. This is Uncovered by Atlanta News First Investigates. Life-changing operations for those facing obesity. Weight loss surgery not only helps people shed pounds, but it can reduce their risk of type 2 diabetes. But sometimes the surgery comes with a little-known risk that can lead to deadly consequences, a complication called transfer addiction. Kristen Crowley uncovers the problem.
I was probably 18. She's probably like 21, 22 in that picture.
Sisters often share a special bond.
She was funny, she was charismatic.
That was certainly true for Amanda and Carrie, who not only considered themselves best friends, they also lived next door to each other and traveled the world together.
Hawaii for her 40th birthday. We went to like Key West in Mexico. We did a med cruise out of Rome to like four Greek Isle stops.
But for Amanda, the most impactful journey was one she never expected. Carrie's weight loss journey after bariatric surgery.
I saw how happy she was and how she was coming out of her shell. She was being more social.
So the surgery seemed successful.
Yeah, totally successful.
Did exactly what it was intended to do.
Yeah.
But it came with an unintended consequence.
At some point after about 2 years, I started noticing her drinking more, or the drinking, her just being 2 drinks and so incredibly drunk.
Your sister's drinking habits before the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
How often was she consuming alcohol?
6 times or less a year.
She was not an alcoholic.
No.
After surgery, it was a different story. Amanda says Carrie drank regularly. She believes it was all related to a little-known potential side effect called transfer addiction. The Obesity Action Coalition says transfer addiction happens when patients with compulsive eating habits swap food for other things like alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex, even shopping. It says studies show as many as 30% of bariatric surgery patients experience it.
Did doctors ever tell your sister or warn her about transfer addiction?
To my knowledge, her doctors did not tell her this was a possibility.
And that's because they don't have to. It's not a requirement for accredited bariatric surgery programs. Those standards are set by the Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery Accreditation and Quality Improvement Program, also known as MBS-AQIP. Dr. Ann Rogers is president of the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery, which works with MBS-AQIP.
What do you think about that, about some calls to make this part of the education before surgery?
These programs, for a lot of patients, take a long time to get through. And you're hit with a fire hose of information. And it's hard to remember every single thing.
On top of that, Dr. Rogers says one reason transfer addiction isn't mandatory to teach is there's not enough research to show it even exists.
It's very hard to study in humans. We don't even know if there's such a thing as food addiction per se. So while you can go without cigarettes or alcohol, you can't go without food. So we can't study what it's like to have people quit eating cold turkey. So that just makes it impossible to study it as a form of addiction.
But the effects of alcohol on people post-weight loss surgery are well known.
You very quickly can get intoxicated as well as dehydrated and malnourished. So we do say, after surgery, we strongly encourage no alcohol use for 12 to 24 months at all.
Dr. Jessica Hamilton is a clinical psychologist who evaluates patients before weight loss surgery. While she doesn't specifically talk to patients about transfer addiction, she does talk to them about the risk of alcohol use disorder.
There are correlations and there is some evidence to talk about the risk of alcohol use increasing after surgery.
That was true for patients like Anna.
Did you have a problem with alcohol before this?
No, I was always the designated driver for my friends.
And Marianne.
Everywhere I go, I meet people who've had weight loss surgery and are alcoholics.
The two are part of a Facebook group called Transfer Addiction After Weight Loss Surgery, which has nearly 13,000 members. Anna joined after her surgery in 2020 when she developed an addiction to alcohol, got sober, and relapsed. Marianne, who did struggle with alcohol before her surgery, said her addiction got worse after she had her procedure in 1979.
What do you think about them saying there's not enough research and data on this issue to say it's actually an issue?
Hogwash. That's what I say, hogwash. I went through years and years of going to physicians and going to psychiatrists and going to therapists for help.
Was this the last trip you took?
Amanda says she tried desperately to get her sister help.
How many times did she go to rehab?
1, 2, 4.
Carrie was about to go back to rehab for a 5th time when she was found unresponsive on her kitchen floor. She died in November of 2018. The cause of death, alcohol poisoning.
What do you think when you hear that it's not mandatory for doctors or surgeons to tell people about the possibility of transfer addiction?
I would tell them they can have my grief, and they can have my pain, and they can have my anger.
The Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery Accreditation and Quality Improvement Program updates its standard of care practices every couple of years based on the feedback from those in its accredited programs. Amanda hopes enough people will see this story to lead to a conversation about including transfer addiction education in programs.
Months of noise, dust, and debris in a Buckhead neighborhood. Then, suddenly, everything changed. Atlanta News First investigates, uncovers how it all ended.
A construction project leads to noise, dust, and debris for months in one Atlanta neighborhood. Consumer investigator Better Call Harry stepped in to try to speed up the project after neighbors told him construction crews cut off their water.
In October, homeowners in Buckhead's Peachtree Hills neighborhood put out the spooky decor, but they didn't need it. The months-long water main replacement project on Kinsey Court caused its own nightmare. 5 months of dust, debris, and noise. I said the noise. Residents say the project did not go as planned. Some wondered if there was a plan.
The beeping, you hear the beeping? Yeah, that's like bright and early 7 a.m.
Never seems like it's going to end.
Neighbors were already dealing with a Beltline expansion project at the end of the street. Construction crews coming and going, and now this.
It started with a loss of water pressure and then escalated to them coming and fixing kind of like spot by spot.
I've seen them redig a hole in front of my house maybe 12, 15 times.
Watershed records show that on June 12th, they hit a water line. On July 25th, they hit a gas line. And on July 28th, they pulled a cable line. Neighbors say the original crew, not these guys, would do a little work and then disappear for weeks.
Well, we've had verbal altercations. One day it was between the Department of Watershed staff themselves. High degree of yelling. Tension seemed to be flaring.
By the time Atlanta News First investigates got involved, Watershed had replaced the original crew with a new one.
I think this is the first week or two we've seen actual progress.
But progress comes at a price.
And I come home every day from work not knowing when they're going to be here. They never tell us when they're showing up. They show up unannounced and block our whole street. So when I'm trying to get home, I can't.
Watershed completed in a couple of weeks what had dragged on for months. It was the end of October, but what about the paving? That was then, this is now. The street has a new layer of asphalt from the top to the bottom. The nightmare on Kinsey Court is in the past, and homeowners like Richard Sorensen are happy with the results.
Fortunately, it's all over and done with now, and I know, all of us on the street are really happy about it. So it took a long time, but we're here, we're on the other side, and everybody can move forward.
Better call Harry. You get involved and things change. It seems like the neighbors are crediting you for speeding up these issues.
I mean, we know that the city had already switched crews and that they were out there working on things. I will say that I was out there 3 or 4 days in a row just monitoring what was going on, because the city said, okay, we're going to come back and we're going to spray down all of the dust that was getting everywhere, all over people's cars and their houses. And it really was a mess. And they never did get, a watering truck out there, which they typically do on projects where it's really dusty like this one. I think we had some impact. We required a response, and they did give us one, and it did get finished and everything was completed. But man alive, this took a long time.
So at the heart of this, these neighbors are frustrated with the lack of communication and the lack of consistent scheduling. Is the city required to let residents know about what's going on in their neighborhood before they do it?
They had to let people know when the work was going to, or that the work was going to be done. The city did have some meetings with residents, or I know emails were going back and forth, but the main thing is that these people just needed to keep the pressure on. I think in this case, I don't know that the city anticipated this big of a repair.
And at least if you have communication, you can plan accordingly, and so that would limit some of the issues. So we know Atlanta is constantly developing and redeveloping. The audience watching at home, if they're dealing with something similar, what's the best advice here?
I'd say go to your city councilman first, because that's what your city council person, I should say, is for. And say, look, here's what's going on. I need you to get involved. And if they don't, maybe as a group you contact, the Department of Watershed or the DOT, Atlanta's DOT. Anybody can do an open records request for any project. So I mean, before they award a contract, they have to get bids, and then once the bids are out and they accept the contract, you have the right to see it. So you can see what that money's going to and if it's being done right. I hate to put it this way, but yeah, make some noise. It's my motto now. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
All right, thanks so much, Harry.
Sure.
Ahead on Uncovered, fourth graders struggling to read. A&F investigates the educational miracle that could lead to lasting changes inside Georgia schools.
Young students struggling to read. A testing assessment revealed 70% of Georgia's fourth graders are below proficient literacy level. Atlanta News First investigative reporter Andy Parati went searching for solutions and found students are outperforming the rest of the nation in an area that may surprise you.
Chapter the 9th, Big Fight. Ready or not, here I come!
Cameron Davis reads with the enthusiasm of an action hero.
It's our only chance to save the kid! Run! The name of the book is Dog Man, A Tale of Two Kitties.
A Mississippi third grader with a love for reading that started at an early age.
Once you get the hang of it, you got the hang of it.
But it takes work.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of work. I'll hunt you down till my last breath.
Cameron's reading proficiency highlights a state experiencing literary success.
Lil Petey, are you okay?
That feels like a miracle.
Don't worry, he can be repaired.
According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the nation's report card, Mississippi once ranked almost dead last, 49th in 2013 for its fourth grade reading scores. Today, it ranks 9th best in the nation, and it leads the country #1 for overall reading improvement.
This is called a positivity pulse.
Amanda Malone is the state's literacy director.
How did Mississippi do it?
A lot of times people call it the Mississippi Miracle. Now, miracle implies that humans had nothing to do with that, and so it's not a miracle.
So don't call it a miracle.
Don't call it the Mississippi Miracle. It is really a marathon.
That marathon started in 2013 when state lawmakers passed sweeping legislation, which includes funding literacy coaches to help teachers in the classroom, retraining teachers in science-based reading instruction, and passing a law requiring third graders must read at grade level before they're promoted to the fourth grade. Why third grade? It's the year students move from learning to read to decoding words and reading to learn.
What's another word for beginning?
Shamika Harris is a teacher at Shirley Elementary in Jackson, Mississippi.
B.
At first, she wasn't a fan of holding third graders back if they weren't reading on grade level.
Sometimes students, they have a bad day. Maybe they just didn't do well on that test, but that doesn't mean that that he or she doesn't know the material. But now I feel like, okay, we know about the test, prepare, start at pre-K, and make sure the students are getting everything that they need to ensure their success for the third grade assessment.
Great job, everyone.
Georgia schools are in the process of replicating many of Mississippi's initiatives to combat a literacy crisis. 70% of fourth graders in the Peach State cannot read proficiently, but districts are not required to hold third graders back if they're not reading on grade level. According to a Georgia Department of Education spokesperson, districts can waive this requirement as part of their charter system or strategic waiver contracts. This means the majority of districts set their own policy regarding promotion retention.
So before we start,
Malone says the intent of Mississippi's law is focused on intervention, not retention.
At the third grade level, it's the time. It is the time to determine, all right, is this child reading on grade level for the purpose of them being ready for college, being ready for a career. That's one of our goals here in Mississippi, to make sure that whatever those children do, that we have prepared them to be able to do it well. It's a big deal. It is really a big deal.
Despite its success, Mississippi still faces a perception problem after decades of dismal testing scores. Here's what candidates for New Jersey governor said during an October debate.
We need to do what Mississippi and Louisiana did, high-impact curriculum.
Interesting how he keeps citing places like Louisiana and Mississippi, I think some of the worst schools in the entire nation.
When you hear that, what goes to your mind?
Well, first of all, it's wrong. That's not accurate information.
Today, Mississippi's graduation rates are higher than the national average.
Peel.
And testing assessments show there is no better state in the country for low-income or students of color to learn to read, proving that struggling states like Georgia, improvement is possible.
It makes me so proud, and it really brings tears to my eyes because, again, literacy is a human right. It is for everyone.
ADHD, don't fail me now.
Cameron agrees.
I think that is awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce? It makes you proud?
Really proud.
You know, Mississippi used to be the one that we could always make an assumption about. Well, not anymore. Don't call it a miracle, it's a marathon, and we're still on it.
Andy, this is a part of your larger series. It was so fun to watch this, but why was it important to go to Mississippi?
Sarah, I love profiling solutions that come from unexpected places. And when I heard about Mississippi's success, I immediately reached out to the superintendent's office there in Mississippi and I said, hey, I'd love to profile your success. Oftentimes when investigative reporters are reaching out to any agency, they're like, whoa, what's going on here? But they immediately realized after I threw out some statistics that they really liked, they were like, oh, he wants to highlight the good stuff.
And it's so interesting here because when you think of reading levels, you don't necessarily think of Mississippi. No. And this was no overnight fix. This took more than a decade to see some improvement in Mississippi. So how long could it take for us here in Georgia to see some improvement?
Time will tell, right? So the good news is at least the success that we're seeing in Mississippi, we're starting to see in Georgia. They're starting at least to implement some of the things Mississippi has been doing for decades. Georgia just started about 2-3 years ago, so we have some time to see if it really works.
We like to say you don't know what you don't track. Yeah. So I'm interested to know who's actually keeping track of the changes and the improvement in our state.
So the Georgia Department of Education, they're the ones tracking this information. And of course, they rely on testing like the nation's report card that we mentioned in the piece. So there's a lot of data collection. If anything that I've learned over the past couple of years covering education, there's a lot of data and people are tracking the good and the bad, and we'll see how Georgia falls in a few years.
Important data. We will be watching. Thanks so much, Andy. You can listen to all of our extended conversations on these stories right now on our podcast, Behind the Investigation. Just search Atlanta News First on your favorite podcast platform. You're watching Uncovered by Atlanta News First Investigates, a weekly hour-long investigative show with new episodes launching every Sunday at 7.